Sorry, the number 4's answer is -4, -6, I believe. -4, -6. I'll write that in a better spot. Okay, so please check your answers against what you see up there, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that might come up based on that.
Next page. Whoa. It's the stuff that I didn't do. Oh, really? I just watch it. I don't want to,
Question?
7 questions. Yeah. You can throw like what he's doing, and then you see art class that was like a bunch of projects. What? What are you talking about?
Just be careful. Maybe make your negatives, try to make them long like this. So it might just look like a little straight mark to you or something. So.
That's true. What? We had a refund.
Hold question.
Okay, well, messed up on that. Wait, so you cheated? Just learn about it today, guys.
So please use that answer
All right, anybody else with a question, a concern, or anything?
Really honest, I have
Okay. Says multiply, then simplify, and it gives you the square root of 14a times the square root of 2a. So this is pretty similar to one of the questions on your intro video. So if you guys would, try this and succeed, fail, somewhere between. It's okay to mess up. It's okay to not know what to do. I'll be happy to kind of guide you through this and help you when we get to the end. Take a couple of minutes here and try this one. With this one, maybe you remember from the video, you can multiply two radicals together. And the way that you would multiply these two radicals together is simply to write the square root, and then you multiply the two radicands together. So you multiply 14a times 2a. And in the video, obviously you guys know that 14 times 2 is 28. In the video I talked a little bit, I believe, about what is a times a. Definition of a times a is a squared. That's all that is. So if you got to this point, here's what you've done. You've multiplied. So you've done good work. It means you're halfway home. And then I reminded you that you also need to simplify. So that's what we're going to do next. Using maybe a factor or tree, or maybe you just know how to do this real quick in your head. 28 is really 2 times 2 times 7. A squared, as we know, is a times a. So there is a pair of 2's and a pair of a's. So the pair of 2's comes out as just a 2, and the pair of a's comes out as just an a. Unfortunately, the 7 is left over inside, can't come out, so you would get 2a times root 7. 2 times a times root 7, technically. Okay, so you had a chance to try it. You've seen an example of a solution. Do you have any questions? Remember, math is supposed to make sense. So if I do something or you do something and it doesn't make sense, we need to talk. And it's just how math is, right? We try something, hopefully it makes sense. If not, we make it make sense, or we do our best to at least. Okay, so then why don't you guys try number 2? Move on to number 2. Same instructions. Multiply, then make sure it's simplified. Ready, go. If you were confused at all, or we end up with the wrong answer, or not sure why, I think I might have some thinking to help you here. Can anybody explain what is the operation between the 12 and the root 5? Like, is it 12 plus root 5, 12 minus root 5, 12 times root 5, 12 divided by root 5? What's going on there? It's times. That's right. So if you wanted to, what you could do is you could just do a really minor rewrite and rewrite this for what it is. It's 12 times the square root of 5 times 4. That make sense? So here's how you do this. If you're multiplying numbers like this, you can multiply radicals together in the way that we have been, and you can multiply non-radicals together in the way that we have been. But what you can't do, it's just numerically wrong, is you can't multiply a radical times a non-radical in the typical way. Okay? So if you notice here, the 12 and the 4 are both non-radical numbers. So quite literally, all that is just 12 times 4. Like something you probably would have done in like 4th grade, right? Or I don't know, whenever that would be. So 12 times 4 is 48. 48 times root 5, we'd probably write that as 48 root 5. 48 times the square root of 5. But we would not multiply the 4 times the 5 because the 5 is not a 5, is it? The 5 is actually the square root of 5. And we actually could combine those, but we'd have to do it in kind of an unfamiliar way. And then we just have to simplify it anyhow. So there really wouldn't be a good reason to do that. 48 root 5, I'm sure you noticed that 5 is already prime. And so there's no extra simplifying we can do there. Your final value would just be 48 root 5. Okay, so I tried to do a good job of explaining, but there's a question. I'd be happy to help.
Will the multiplying part of it be on the concept quiz?
No. Concept quiz is just simplifying radicals, like we've done that a lot already, and rationalizing. Again, we've done that a fair amount as well. But nothing we're doing right now, nothing even that we did yesterday. The adding and subtracting, that's not on the concept quiz either.
Okay.
We try to separate concept quizzes by about 2 days from the end of when we finish the concept. Okay, so if you haven't already moved on, looked at number 3, please do so. Answer what you think the answer for number 3 is. Ben, go ahead.
6 root 42.
6 times the square root of 42. What do you think? Good, bad, close? Not even close. Good? So the 42 is really just 2 times 3 times 7, right? So there's no pairs of like factors. So yeah, Noel.
I think he has the first right answer, but he still needs to simplify.
Okay, so let's talk about that. How do you think the 42 breaks down?
I think 42, 6, and 7 goes into it.
Okay, and 6 is really
2 and 3.
2 times 3. So I agree, we absolutely have to look at this. But I think at this point we'd have to make the decision that it actually does not simplify any further, right? Because there's not a pair of 2s, there's not a pair of 3s, there's not a pair of 7s. They're all single factors. So because of that, there's nothing to be simplified.
Okay, I just thought you had to do it.
I would take, you know what? I would honestly take either one of those.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the 2 times 3 times 7 tells me that you at least thought about it, and that's great. But you didn't really. If you could just look at it and be like, 2 times 3, oh, nothing simplifies. I'm okay if you leave it as 42. All right. Any other questions? Good one for sure. Anyone else? Okay, so we're going to do some slightly more advanced questions now. I want you guys, we're going to skip a little bit. I want you guys to try number 5, please. We'll skip number 4 for the moment. Please try number 5.
Yeah. Yes, you can.
Square root of 11 times square root of 11 minus 2. Let's try number 5. Saw far more wrong answers than I saw right answers.
Let's go. I'm right.
So,
I'm right.
let's see which camp you fell in, and we can fix whatever we need to fix, okay? Or we'll try. So here we go. So, thought number 1, did you all see the distributive property?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm hoping you recognize that. The factor that's being distributed is root 11. That means this square root of 11 is going to get multiplied times both terms inside the parentheses. So let's start there. Does that make sense? Okay, so when I do this first distributive property piece, square root of 11 times square root of 11, would you all agree with me that that would be the square root of 121.
Yes. Which would be.
And we'll get to that, like what that is in a second. You're right, that's going to simplify a lot. Now, if I'm going to do this second part of the distributive property, I've got to multiply the square root of 11 times 2. This one's a little tricky because you've got a radical times a non-radical, which means you can't really simplify in the typical way. So to be honest with you, all that I would really do with this is say that root 11 times 2 is just minus 2 square root of 11. Okay, it's definitely not just a 2. Hey, listen up.
It's right there.
Listen up. So from an error analysis standpoint, if all you did was write a 2 right here, that tells me that you just didn't really distribute all to everything. You only distributed to part of the expression. So it really does have to be that. And then as you guys mentioned, that root 121, square root of 121 does simplify, right? To what? 11. So it would be 11 minus 2 times the square root of 11. And that is all that can be simplified there. So I did see a handful of folks, maybe like, 5 to 7 of you roughly, that had that. The rest had some version of 9 or 9 root 11 or something like that. So, hey guys, listen up.
What?
There is one, listen please, Josh, please listen. There is one additional thing we need to talk about because I did see a number of folks that got to this step, had it just right, everything looked really good, but then went one step too far in a wrong direction. They said 11 minus 2, well gosh, that's 9, so it must be this. So why would that be so wrong?
Because the 2 is connected to the root 11.
Yeah, and the 11 on the front doesn't have a root 11, right? So they are not like terms, right? So an example would be like if we had 11 minus 2x. At this stage of the game, I would expect that 100% of you would look at 11 minus 2x and say, it's all the way simplified, right? It's not this, it's just that, and that's already simplified. Same reasoning here. This is already simplified because the terms are not like terms. Therefore, we would not be doing anything like that. Okay, so you guys have any questions at all on any of that stuff? Okay, so tomorrow you guys can see there's a handful of questions that we didn't do yet. So I think tomorrow at some point we'll work our way through some of those multiplications. I think it'd be good to spread this out because some of these get a little more advanced. I'd like to give you plenty of time. I don't want to be rushing things. So if you would, put your notes away, grab a pencil, get your tables reset for a concept quiz, and we'll do that.